Welcome to Perspective X, news by Gen X for Gen X. And remember, if you're offended, that's your problem. So let's get on with today's stories. I've got 4 stories here that came up on my X feed because, well, I've been banned from pretty much every other social media platform. They don't like the memes I post. First story is about Moron Zamboni. And the fact that you know exactly who I'm talking about just makes it even better. Moron Zamboni, there we go. Moron Zamboni is telling everybody that you need 2 forms of ID to shovel snow for the city of New York. Let's hear what he has to say.
There's been this controversy over the snow laborers and the sort of what some see as onerous need to have documentation. Can you just talk about if that's new and what you make of the controversy?
This is all long-standing. This is a long-standing program and long-standing requirements, and this is a way that New Yorkers get paid to shovel snow in assistance with the city's response to a winter storm event. Federal law requires that employers get authorization and documentation to pay people for their work. We are not allowed to just cut checks to individuals for their work. And these are the policies that we've had in place, but I understand that for many it's the first time that they've ever heard about it.
So, the mayor of New York is saying that you need 2 forms of ID plus copies of those 2 forms of ID if you want to get paid to shovel snow in New York City. Isn't this the same guy saying that to require someone to have ID in order to register to vote is racist? Does that mean that this mayor of New York City is a racist? It certainly sounds that way. I mean, I don't make up the rules, I just follow them. These are the rules that the Democrats have made up. So if it is racist to require some form of ID in order to do something, Mayor of New York is a racist. Seems pretty simple. I also love the fact that he immediately says this is a long-standing program. Really? Granted, I don't live in New York City. I don't live anywhere near New York City. But I don't remember ever seeing anything about citizens helping the city shovel snow. The city, up until this mayor, has always had people who could shovel snow. They've had plow trucks. They've had people who shoveled on the sidewalk. They've had plenty of people to shovel the snow. And New York gets a lot of snow, so they've got a lot of people who can shovel. But, of course, the unions aren't working with this particular mayor because, well, he's a communist, for one thing. He has said many things that they don't like, and so, of course, they're not going to work with him. And this is just the first of many crises that this guy is going to get himself into. And make no mistake, he got himself into it. This isn't something that just happened. He put himself where he's at by saying the things that he said. This is all on his head. So, I have absolutely no sympathy for the guy. You say stupid shit, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Simple as that. Alright, so enough of Moron Zamboni. Let's go on to our next. Johnny, tell us about our next contestant. Well, our next contestant is the current president of Mexico, who says she didn't want to use force against cartels because it would violate their human rights. Well, let's hear it from her own words. Let's hear her own words from her own mouth.
Es opción, no es opción. Primero, porque está fuera del marco de la ley. Todos estos de la derecha que se llenan la boca de las palabras Estado de Derecho y defienden la guerra contra el narco, pues la guerra contra el narco está fuera de la ley, porque como lo dije o lo he dicho en varias ocasiones, es permiso para matar, sin ningún juicio. Y eso en México nadie o muy poquitos están de acuerdo. Está fuera del marco de la ley. Y segundo, no sirvió de nada más que para aumentar los homicidios en México y el nivel de violencia. Entonces, estos llamados autoritarios, porque son autoritarios, es ir hacia el fascismo. Regresar.
Okay, so if that translation was accurate, I don't speak Spanish. If that translation was accurate, that word salad is worthy of Kamala Harris herself. As near as I can tell, her main complaint is that the right wing, which she is not part of, is saying that she needs to go after the cartels. And she's saying, well, we can't go after the cartels because if we go after the cartels, some of them might die without trial, and that would be bad. Okay. I understand, killing people outright is not a good thing. And the police are not supposed to just go out and kill people. But we also understand this is the cartels in Mexico. They're not going to just give up. They're going to come out shooting. So, yes, the police would have every right to shoot back. And, yeah, I suspect that some of the cartel members might die in those shootouts. That was their choice. They could have given up. They could have surrendered. If they don't want to surrender, if they think they can shoot it out with the police and win, then okay, that's their choice. No one is removing their civil rights if they end up dead, because they chose. Just like Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Should he have had a gun there? Well, I think it was stupid. He has every right to have had a gun there. I think it was stupid. Let me rephrase this. It was stupid of him to have a gun on him and then interfere with ICE trying to perform their duties. That was stupid. I have no problem with being armed at a protest or anywhere else. I carry a gun everywhere I go. Everywhere I'm allowed to go to carry it, I do. Not because I expect to get into trouble, not because I want to get in trouble, but because I may find myself in trouble. And I would much rather have a gun and not need it than to need a gun and not have it. Simple enough. But I also am smart enough not to involve myself in a dispute that, one, I have no business being in the middle of, and two, I know I'm going to lose. That's just plain stupidity. Okay? So, yes. Are these cartel members likely to come out shooting? Absolutely. But it beats the alternative. She's basically saying, I'm going to do nothing, because if I do anything, it might result in the cartel members' civil rights being violated by them being killed. What this tells me is that she is, in fact, a puppet of the cartels. Well, we pretty much already knew that. And in case you're wondering, I'm assuming you know what's going on in Mexico right now. I probably shouldn't. But there have been videos all over X. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Yeah, Mexico cartel videos. Let's see if we got one here. What the? Okay, that's just Mexican. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. This is what's going on in Mexico right now.
Verga, loco. Chinga tu madre.
That's the Costco that those are the cars in the Costco parking lot that they're burning. This is just one of the videos. Let's see here. I was sent this video from friends at the border. It's not been corroborated, but it shows what appears to be cartel on cartel battles. Okay. Okay. And this shows you roughly where these battles are happening. They're everywhere. Cabo San Lucas. Sammy Hagar's Cabo Wabo probably isn't there anymore. Good thing he doesn't own it anymore. I mean, you know, all of these and a lot of these are tourist areas too, along the west coast of Mexico. Yeah, those are all tourists. So, yeah, there's a lot of violence going on in Mexico right now. Extent of the militarization of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel in Mexico. This is the cartel. Let's go ahead and start this over. I'm going to point out that this up here, this mounted 30 cal, they didn't get that from any standard gun store in America. Same with this one. That's a grenade launcher. This right here is a grenade launcher. Yeah, you don't get that out of your regular gun store either. That looks like an AR. That's an AR with a drum. This footage is really grainy. It's hard to tell. But, you know, they got all these vehicles. And I'm going to talk over them because you can't understand a word they're saying anyway. These guys are all screaming about whatever. Look at these vehicles. These are armored vehicles. Those are armored vehicles that the cartel has. And oh yeah, here's some more of them.
Ahí tengo desamarrados los perros, culero. Y así voy a andar patrullando. Con tu puta madre.
I don't understand what they're saying, but they're all dressed in military garb. They might as well be the government right now. Because I tell you right now, she is not. She may have the title of president, but she's not in charge. The cartels are. This is a problem. And at one point, the people in the Mexican government were telling the U.S., hey, if you want to send troops to take care of this, fine by us. In fact, I want to say there was this up here, this Mexican senator. I'm curious what she has to say.
Hola, hola. Aquí Lili Telles, senadora de México. Estoy en el Senado y vean qué terrible esto. Ahí a unos metros de mí está el líder del cártel de la Barredora. Allá lo está defendiendo ¿cómo se llama? La de Chihuahua. Pero el líder de un cártel, que hay pruebas, que las pruebas las tienen los militares, de llamadas telefónicas, hay pruebas de que es líder de la Barredora, está sentado aquí a unos metros de donde yo estoy. ¿Pueden creer a qué nivel ha llegado México con el líder de un cártel aquí en el Senado, protegido por Sheinbaum? protegido por Sheinbaum aquí, operando en el Senado, el líder de un cártel. En lugar de irse a la cárcel, que venga seguridad por él. Ahí ya se va un poquito más lejos. Pero no podemos permitir que en México el líder de un cártel, aquel Adán Augusto López, esté aquí como si nada. Y aquí se ponen a defenderlo. Bueno, ahorita huyó aquella la de Chihuahua, ya salió corriendo. Porque lo estaba defendiendo y salió corriendo en cuanto los empecé a exhibir. No, esto está muy mal. Muy, muy mal. ¿Cómo es posible? ¿A qué grado se ha llegado que el líder de un cártel, que hay pruebas, el ejército tiene pruebas, esté aquí en el Senado? Eso, queridas familias mexicanas, por eso México está como está. Los narcopolíticos aquí metidos, ¿cómo van a hacer algo bueno por el país? Si están, ahí se van, miren qué cobarde. Miren qué cobarde. Ya, allá va. ¡Ay! Va a ver al amigo de Maduro. Al amigo de Maduro, al amigo del terrorista. Ahí están. Uno es el del cártel de la Barredora, Dan Augusto López, y el otro es amigo del terrorista dictador de Venezuela. A ese grado ha llegado el Senado de descomposición. No dejemos de denunciar esto. No les tengan miedo. Tenemos que defender a México de estos narcopolíticos, de esos narcopolíticos encabezados por ese líder del cártel de la Barredora.
And you thought it was bad here in America. That was a Mexican senator talking about how a leader of one of the cartels is there in the Senate chamber talking to a friend of Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. You can't make this shit up. You really can't. That's how bad it is in Mexico. Literally, that's how bad it is. These people are, it's no wonder that people are fleeing. I understand that. But come on, really? So, yeah. Mexico is in trouble. Mexico is in massive trouble, deep trouble. And she's at the center of it. She's not in charge. She's a puppet. And quite obvious by that video that it's the cartels that are running things, and the cartels are simply throwing around their weight to point out who is in charge, so that there is no mistaking, that no one has any excuse for not knowing and understanding that the cartels are the ones that are in charge. It's going to be an interesting few weeks. Honestly, I would love to see a much more stable Mexico. It would make our lives a lot easier, but I'm also not for going in and doing anything about it. If they cross the border, or they come to the border, sure, take them out. I have no problem with that. But I don't see any reason to go in there and do anything about this. This is her problem. This is the problem of the people of Mexico. You cannot free an enslaved people who do not want to be free. If they wanted to be free, they'd be fighting. They would have guns and they'd be fighting. All right, next story. Okay, I don't know who this is. I mean, aside from Representative Shontel Brown of Ohio. Well, let's see what she has to say. Let's go ahead and start this from the beginning.
I will not be attending the State of the Union, and an overwhelming majority of my constituents are backing me up on this one. Here's why. It's because of what Trump has done to our country, our civil rights, and our democracy. So we cannot treat this as a normal moment. We cannot continue on with business as usual while our democracy is under attack by a president who thinks he's above the law. And then on top of that, he has signed legislation that will result in thousands of people in our district losing their health care and nutrition benefits. So I know Northeast Ohio has had enough, and I have definitely had enough. You see, attendance is a way of signaling respect, but in this case, absence is a way of signaling conscience. And I've chosen to go with my conscience on this one. So, no, I am not going to be there because this is an all hands on deck moment to rein in this president and let him know we will not stand for his lies, we will not stand for his name calling or his attacks. We will fight back and we will win.
All right, so let me go back here a little bit. So we've got, I want to, whoop. Come on, give me, there we go. Well, let's see here. Let's go back to the beginning. There we go. Perfect. Perfect picture. I have no idea who this woman is. She's Representative Shontel Brown out of Ohio. I don't know that anybody in her district knows who she is. She is that irrelevant. But she's going to tell you that she's no... I'm not going to sit through the State of the Union address. I don't care. No one cares. First off, I wanted to bring up a picture where there was no words in front of her, just so you could read the shirt. Allow me to explain why I am right. Right there tells you everything you need to know about this woman. She thinks she's right. She says that President Trump has taken away the rights of people in Ohio. Okay, what rights? Well, they're not going to get their health benefits or their nutrition benefits. Well, that'd be SNAP. That'd be Medicaid and SNAP. You're right. He took a bunch of them off. He stopped benefits for all of that stuff because most of those people, what was it, 80% of people getting benefits didn't deserve them. They weren't supposed to be getting them. Hell, half of them were illegals. And she's upset that the illegals are no longer getting their benefits. I don't care. I don't care. In fact, this is what I voted for. Getting them off the benefits because I don't want to pay for them. That's not why I pay taxes. Taxes are theft. But if you're required to pay them, I don't want them going to illegals. I don't want them going to people who learned how to get onto benefits as children, never bothered to even try and get an education or a job because they knew that they could get their benefits as soon as they turned 18 and would never have to work a day in their lives. No. Straight up, no. But, these are the people that she's fighting for. Not you or me, not the average American, but the people who are trying to rip off the country. That's who she's fighting for. Okay, fine, don't go. I also like the fact she says attendance is a show of respect. What she didn't say is that absence is a show of disrespect. Okay, disrespect the president. See what that gets you. Because this president will call her out. And I actually hope he does. I really do. But, she's irrelevant. She thinks she's someone. She's not. I also want to point out to everybody who might see this. There was a time when I was younger, I assumed that the people who were running this country were smarter than I am. I assumed that they knew something I didn't. I have since come to find out that no, most of them are far stupider than I am. Just look at any Democrat and half the Republicans. They're all stupid. They're idiots. And the people who follow them are idiots. So, if you can do a better job, and I suspect you probably can, you should think about running for office. Because that absolutely will get things back on track. Getting people in office who believe that their job as an elected official is to serve the people. That's what we need. If we can get a bunch of people like that, this country would be a much better place. All right, last story. No video, just a stupid-ass picture. This is Detroit Police Chief Todd Bedison, who has put an unnamed police officer, on temporary paid administrative leave for alerting DHS agents to an illegal alien with an active felony warrant. The officer pulled over the person during a routine traffic stop and determined that that person was in the country illegally and had an active felony warrant. I'm going to assume it's a he, not a she. Could be a she, but most likely it's a he. Instead of ignoring that, the officer contacted federal immigration authorities. Bedison reportedly has plans to fire the officer. Well, okay. We're Gen X. We were teenagers when the movie RoboCop came out. You remember what city that took place in? New Detroit. Because old Detroit was a trash heap. Well, here's your police chief of Detroit. Old Detroit. It's a trash heap. What was it President Trump called Baltimore? A shithole city? That's Detroit. Now, when we were younger, when we were kids, Detroit was where all the automobiles were made, right? Detroit had the jobs. It was the place where people could have a factory job and go in, work their 30 years, get a retirement, get a pension. It was a nice, it was an okay place to live. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I wouldn't live anywhere near, I wouldn't be live near Michigan. Come on. No. I mean, there are some nice places in Michigan. But Detroit, it's the same with Chicago. Chicago pulls down the value of the entire state of Illinois. The state of Illinois, most of it, is a very red state, full of farms and good people. But Chicago pulls all the oxygen out, and so anybody thinking about Illinois immediately thinks Chicago. Well, anybody thinking about Michigan automatically thinks about Detroit. And this idiot is going to, if he gets his chance, fire a police officer who did the right thing. That's the problem. We have all of these. Well, he's not elected. He's a police chief. He's appointed by the mayor. But the mayor was elected. And of course, I don't know, when did the Democrats take over Detroit? In the 50s, 60s? It's been most, if not all, of my lifetime. And they have completely destroyed that city. Completely destroyed it. It's to the point where this guy is going to fire a good man because that police officer did the right thing. He did his job properly. My hope is that, one, when this guy gets fired, he's going to have one hell of a lawsuit that he can file. And I suspect there are going to be quite a few lawyers who are ponying up to say, hey, I will help you with this lawsuit. But also, I hope that he ends up, because it's going to take several years to go through court. So I hope he ends up getting a job as a police officer in a city or town on a police force that appreciates him, that appreciates the value that he brings to the job. Because it's obvious this idiot doesn't. You know, I don't watch over-the-air TV or cable anymore. Everything I watch is usually on YouTube. It's all online. There's no point watching over the air, right? With the one exception, I watch the local news in the evening just so I can look at the weather forecast. That's all I really care about is the weather forecast. But I'm watching these guys on X, and I watch Tim Pool, and I watch various other people to get news, to keep informed. You ever watch watch some of the stuff that goes on and just wish you could just reach out and bitch slap these people? I know I do. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, if you hopefully you enjoyed what you watched. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, give us a thumbs down. Tell us what you think. Leave a message in the comments. like and subscribe. Do all the things you're supposed to do. And I'm going to try and do this on a daily basis. I think I can. There's certainly enough news coming out on a daily basis. But I think I can pull up 2 or 3 stories and just bullshit about them. That's all I'm going to do. Bitch, moan, and complain. The millennials, boomers complaining about it, yelling at a cloud. Yeah, okay, whatever. Anyway, till then, we'll hopefully you'll have a good day. See you later.